Welcome back to my studios. Today in this video we're going to do a drawing. It's another landscape and it's a sky and barn is the subject I've chosen. It was a really nice sky, a nice broad field, barn at the far end, and it just caught my eye. I like the composition of this. I'm going to be working from a photograph I took on my smartphone, and here's a copy of the photograph. This is what I'm going to work from. So I have a fresh sheet of paper on my drawing table. Let's get started. So here I'm starting a new work. I've tentatively entitled it Sky and Barn, and we'll just work here on defining some of the shapes in the sky, specifically the clouds, and building up just a good sky tone. This drawing took quite a bit longer to finish than I had hoped, and hence the delay in getting this video out. My work usually takes me a long time. A work this size typically takes me about 100 hours to complete. I'm working from a reference photo on my phone, as you can see there in the video. So here I am just leaving spaces, negative shapes, which are the clouds. Toward the horizon there's a small bank of cloud, and I'll leave that to come back to it later. Here I'm starting to fill in a little of the foreground. I'm using chromium green to find the rough shape of the tree. The grass a little further back, or the area is much greener, much brighter green. Here I'm working in the tree line across the horizon. Again, that's being done with chromium green. I'll add a little bit of blue to certain parts of it to push them back a little further as well. There's a shadow under the tree, which I don't like the look of now, but we'll deal with it. We'll see how it evolves as I progress in the drawing. Filling in the background fields towards the horizon, and softening out my initial drawing lines. Now, in this foreground area, well, here we have a plowed field, but in front of that we're going to have a stand of a field of corn. So block in the green, the base green. We'll add the details a little bit later. You'll notice I use the kneadable eraser every once in a while just to pull out little bits. Very, very handy eraser. It's the only eraser I use. Here I'm using a piece of tissue paper to blend the sky colors. It just smooths everything out. It blends the tones. It's a very nice effect in the sky. I use it quite often in my work. And again, you can see certain places I'm leaving them a little lighter to suggest thinner clouds. But you can see now, as the sky gets darker here, the clouds are really starting to stand out and look like clouds. I try to vary the angle of my strokes as much as I can. I find it fills in the white fleck on the paper a lot better as I build the layers on layers. I use a sheet to track the colors that I use in a drawing. So if I get interrupted or leave it for whatever reason for a period of time, I know exactly what colors I was using. So I don't go in with the wrong blue or the wrong green. The other thing I do, and you'll notice, is that I use it as a shield for my hand, so I'm not touching the drawing. I can move across and work on the far side without having to worry about smudging anything that I've put down as I was working on it. You'll notice I try to work the whole drawing. I believe it was Edward Degas said you should be able to walk away from a drawing or a painting at any point and it should look finished. And I'm not sure this would look finished if I walked away from it, but it would certainly convey a sense of what I was after. Okay, time to bring the foreground into a closer state of finish here. I feel it's important to work across the whole drawing to balance the light. How are you going to tell if you've got the effect of the light from the sky correct? If you finish the sky first, or you finish the ground portion first. I find it very illogical to try and do that. There are people who do. I had a friend who used to complete her artwork. She would grid the piece to transfer her photos or whatever, and she would complete one small part of the grid before moving on to the next part adjacent to it. It worked very well for her. I just don't see it. So here I'm bluing down the further field a little bit to make it recede. I'm using some warmer greens in the foreground to bring them forward. As I get this darkened up a little bit, then we're going to move on to some more detail here. We'll start putting in some corn stalks here shortly. Just need to darken down that whole area of the field just enough, but here we go with some corn stalks. I'll run those back the full length of that field, and we'll adjust things as we go. It's important to have some sharper detail in the foreground, just to give depth to the painting. I'm not happy with the shape of my tree here. I'll fiddle with it a little bit more in a few minutes, but right now let's get the cornfield in. And again, this helps give me a sense of the perspective of the feel of what the drawing should look like when it's finished. Again, that idea of bringing the whole drawing, whole painting along at one time. In the back and the further background towards the tree, the corn stalks don't have to be quite as well defined, but just hints of vertical lines with a few diagonals or whatever to suggest the leaves of the corn, or perhaps the ears of corn bending down. Here I'm just trying to darken the plowed field a little bit. Eliminate any halos between one area of color and another. That's something a lot of beginning color pencil artists overlook, is they'll have basically a white halo around each separate area of color. So we're getting very close to being finished here, just adjusting the sky a little bit. Add a little extra tone to it. I'll blend it one more time in a minute here. I still have to finish some detail on the cloud bank toward the horizon. And we'll deal with that here in a moment. Tone down a bit of the shadow areas on the cornfield. I found that bright green just a little too bright. That looks better. Now it looks like a darker earth with a brighter sky. Still need to address the barn on the horizon, but here I'm putting in a little light coming through the upper areas of the corn stalks. And finally adjusting the shape of the tree to make it look a little more realistic. Leave some holes for the birds to get through. A couple of extra trees on the horizon. Add a little more detail in that foreground area. And I'm changing the shadow. I didn't like that shadow from the beginning. So adjust the shadow of the tree. Add a little more value to the tree. And we'll adjust the barn, the light on the barn here. Make it look a little more realistic. Put the little vents up on the top. And some detail in the middle ground. And now we'll just start adding in a little bit of tone in that cloud bank. Few shadows on the underside of some of the clouds. And blend the sky, and we're very close to being done. There we go. Here's the finished painting. I hope you found something useful in this video. Any comments or suggestions would be greatly welcomed. If you want to reach out to me, the email is included at the end of this video. As always, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. I look forward to seeing you soon. Stay safe and keep drawing.